Now I'll say this. I'm not the biggest Leafs fan. I'm not a guy who has a huge emotional attachment to this blue and white team. I could not really care less if guys like Mitch Marner and Auston Matthews and William Nylander and John Tavares prove their worth with the dollar amounts that they have. If they succeed and they score and they win Rocket Richards and they win Art Rosses and maybe even Hart trophies or even, goodness forbid, the Conn Smythe, if they do that, then great. I'm happy with that. But if they lose, if they disappoint, if they let the fans down, as a guy living in Vancouver, cheering for the Canucks, I have some sort of a moral obligation to be pleased by that outcome. Again, I'm not going out there saying I want them to lose, per se. Maybe if I wanted them to lose, it's mostly because it's funny. But if they win, that's fine. I'm not really going to go out there and say that I have too much of an emotional investment to this hockey team. However, with all that said, I wanted to dive into a guy whose reputation in the league has taken a turn for the worst. A guy who has gone down such a strange up and down path of good season, bad season, injured season, healthy season, and who had himself a year where in the playoffs he was productive, but maybe not to the capacity that he may have should have been towards the end of it all. Today we're talking about the legacy of Auston Matthews and how things have started to slow down. How now the idea of Auston Matthews being one of the best players in the world is kind of challenged. You know, last year Auston Matthews had 69 goals in 81 games played. He was one away from 70, and that was a career high in points too. He had 107. Last year, after the regular season, there was a debate that you could have made that said that Auston Matthews was a top 3, top 4 NHL player. You had, of course, the Mick and the Max, McDavid, McKinnon, definitely up there. They dominated the NHL in points. Nikita Kucherov, I mean, he's in the conversation, but I think because he is a winger, he automatically gets discounted quite a bit. But Auston Matthews, with his 69 goals, was a very legitimate name to have in your list of top 3, top 4 NHL players. The 3 M's, that's what you could say, plus Makar on the defense. McDavid, Matthews, McKinnon, and Makar. But this year, Matthews had a season that was worse. And he had a decent amount of points and goals and stuff. 78 points in 67 games is not bad by any means. But you're Auston Matthews. And he had 33 goals in the regular season compared to the 69 he had the year before. In the playoffs last year, too, he had that 69-goal year, but he only had 1 goal in 5 games as the Leafs lost to the Boston Bruins. Matthews didn't play all the games there. Now, Matthews, with his 11 points in 13 games, but his inactivity in the latter games versus Florida, he only had 1 goal in the final 4 games against the Cats in this series loss, including a dud in game number 7. Auston Matthews' legacy is starting to be challenged in a way that we never thought was possible back when this guy was drafted 9 years ago. He was drafted in 2016. It was so long ago. And a part of me doesn't even feel like Auston Matthews has been a 10-year, 9-year NHL player at this point. It's like, oh yeah, that's the new hot young first overall pick that the Leafs ended up getting, who scored nearly 70 goals a year ago. Now, he spoke out to the media about his injuries. He said this: it was a challenging season for him physically. He didn't want to go into specifics, but he's confident he'll be back at 100% next season. He also says he will not require surgery. He was asked if his injury affected his ability to shoot the puck. It affected a lot of things, Matthews said. And I've been seeing so much reaction to this post in particular, saying things like, okay, well, if he was hurt, then why did he play the Four Nations? Or if he's hurt, then what exactly is it? People are trying to speculate what kind of injury Auston Matthews has, whether or not it's tendinitis in the arms or anywhere else in that spot. We saw Elias Pettersson get tendinitis, and he also had a terrible year. So for Auston Matthews, I mean, for his standard, a 33-goal year, it's pretty bad. And for a guy who came from much higher highs, he literally had double the amount of goals he had last year compared to this year. His goal scoring was cut in half. This is a guy who now, taking a look at his performance in the postseason, not being able to get it done, not being able to embrace the hard, you can say, is this a guy who deserves to be in that conversation for best player in the NHL? I don't know, and I don't think so. It's a culture issue with the Toronto Maple Leafs. This team is a team of losers that finds ways to lose in the most losery way possible. I think it was Steve Dangle that said that. Was it? Or was it somebody else? I don't know. There's been a lot of Leafs content on my feed lately. But for Auston Matthews to be one of the faces of this team, he is the captain of the team, even going out there and saying in the media, yeah, we got too many passengers on this team. Too many passengers in the Game 7. Buddy, please, look in the mirror, bro. Is this a guy that can still be held in that same stratosphere of a conversation as McDavid and McKinnon? At this point, if we continue to see Matthews and his career unfold this way, let's say he gets a 60-goal year next year, but he only has 1 goal in the first round of the playoffs and they end up losing in 5, or 6, or 7 even, because they always lose in 7. If this pattern continues, at the very least, for the rest of Matthews' contract, which goes on till 2027, 2028, then there's no excuse for this guy. He isn't a winner. And the Maple Leafs can put themselves in a spot where if they, I don't know, get a whole bunch of guys for cheap that should have costed more, if they're able to work around Matthews' $13+ million AAV contract, because the standard for high contracts for top players in Toronto was set so high by Kyle Dubas, if Auston Matthews is able to get a team around him that can win, and Auston Matthews can look good in that position, then okay, then we can start to reintroduce him to that conversation of best player in the game. But might I remind you, when it comes to that tendinitis thing that people are speculating about, sometimes it doesn't matter if the team you're on is good. Elias Pettersson, the other tendinitis guy, had a bad playoffs in 2024. Nobody gave him the pass. They said, oh yeah, he had a great first half of the year, but he fell off in the second half and in the playoffs. Canucks were 1 game away between defeating the inevitable Stanley Cup runner-ups, and Elias Pettersson looked bad. Nobody gave him the pass. It might not even be enough for the Maple Leafs to just be good and to start winning. Auston needs to control, and he needs to dominate, and he needs to score, especially when the games matter the most. And if he can't do that, then I don't know if we can say that his name belongs in the same conversation as the McDavids or the McKinnons or whatever. At the very least, the guys who either produce a hell of a lot of points, McDavid's way over a point per game in this playoffs, or the guys who have won a championship in the past. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Auston Matthews and his legacy being tarnished here with this season's worth of play. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and bye.